So Trump just said he's going to start a war to cancel the 2028 elections, kind of how like Zelensky can't have an election because his nation is currently at war. You don't need to take my word for it. He said it himself during his interview with Zelensky. So I already know MAGA is going to say, well, he's joking, he's joking. No, he's not. Make sure you go check out my most recent YouTube video covering all of this. It's insane.
This guy is a freaking disaster, and his presidency is imploding. And don't let the media convince you of anything else, because it's just not true. This guy is floundering every single day. There is more and more bad news coming out about the economy and other things. Poll numbers, good Lord, his polls. I'm going to get to that in a minute. But it is bad news every single day for this piece of shit, which is why he is so desperate to distract and change the subject. Not just from Epstein, which is his primary concern right now, and we need to keep talking about that, but also the economy and all kinds of other things that people are pissed off about. And he is just desperate to change the subject. That's what his ass-kissing meeting with Putin was all about. I mean, look how quickly they put that together. There was no plan, there was no deal, there was no outline of a deal, there was no framework of an outline of a deal, there was nothing. It was hastily put together for the sole purpose of distracting from Epstein and everything else. Now, I want to talk about some of the other things besides Epstein that Trump is trying desperately to distract from, primarily the destruction of the U.S. economy, which he is single-handedly responsible for. There's been a lot of bad news coming out about the economy in the last week that has been overshadowed by Donald Trump's desperate attempt to change the subject. And of course, the media falls right into place. They do exactly what they're supposed to be doing. I'm sure if you turn on any of the Sunday morning shows this morning, they're going to be talking all about his meeting with Putin, treating it as a serious issue. It wasn't a serious issue, except for the fact that he is a laughing stock around the world, an embarrassment to this country. But if they're going to sit there and talk about a deal or what the framework of a future, it's all bullshit. Here are just a few of the things that Donald Trump doesn't want you to know about. Here's an article. U.S. deficit grows to $291 billion in July, despite tariff revenue surge. The U.S. government's budget deficit grew nearly 20% in July to $291 billion, despite a nearly $21 billion jump in customs duty collections from President Donald Trump's tariffs, with outlays growing faster than receipts. This according to Treasury Department data. The deficit...
Breaking news. So Trump just said that he might cancel the next presidential election if we were at war. Now, many people are calling this a joke, but I find it very concerning because just earlier today, he announced a brand new executive order that aims to ban mail-in voting and certain voting machines for the midterms. He attempted to justify this by citing security concerns, but there are none. There's been audits done on the outcome of every single election and mail-in voting, and there is no additional risk of fraud. In fact, these quote-unquote security concerns are the same ones he cited in 2020 when he claimed that it was stolen from him. We obviously know that it wasn't, and we also know that there was no widespread voter fraud. The 2020 election is actually the safest election in recorded American history per independent audits from about every agency you could think of. But what we do know about mail-in voting is that it's much more popular amongst Democrats than Republicans. And in my mind, this seems like yet another attempt from Trump to suppress the Democratic vote. I'll keep you updated as we learn more. This very possibly could progress into an extremely concerning story.
All right, listen, what's happening in our economy is not good, but it is predictable. It's basic economics. We heard from a Republican here, Don Bacon, congressman from Nebraska, about what's going on. He didn't say anything controversial here. The only controversy is that he's a Republican And he's willing to acknowledge, I think because it's hurting his constituents so badly, what Donald Trump's economic program is doing. As a reminder, Trump predicted and bragged about how his tariffs are 4D chess and they're going to be so good for the country, but it's crushing farmers. And Nebraska's got a lot of farmers. And here is Congressman Don Bacon simply acknowledging what it is that is going on.
We need trade deals as fast as we can for Nebraska. We're an export state, and our corn and soybeans right now are being shut out of the market. And that's why Nebraska is on its heels right now. We've lost about 6% of our GDP, according to the economic numbers that are official, and that's not a good sign. And so if we can get some tariff deals and get these markets open back up, ultimately that's what we want.
Think about what is happening here. In a sense, 5 or 6%, he says, of Nebraska's GDP has evaporated into thin air because Trump wanted a talking point about being tough on China with tariffs that are paid by American businesses. And meanwhile, the people that are paying the price are the soybean farmers and the corn growers and families that are already struggling to get by. And this is really the core of the problem with Trump's economic brain trust. Number one, out of the expectation that they will be completely loyal to Trump, they don't seriously tell him what the effect of his policies are going to be until it becomes completely untenable and they just have to go, listen, this is not good. And then he'll go, oh, I'm temporarily suspending tariffs for 90 days or whatever. But the core that tariffs are a punishment for not foreign governments, but for American businesses isn't getting through to Donald Trump. And you've got Republicans here. I mean, this is not Elizabeth Warren from liberal Massachusetts. This is Republican Congressman Don Bacon from right-wing Nebraska saying we have seen 6% of our GDP disappear as a result of these tariffs. So it is a bad look, but think about the follow-on effects of this if the tariff policy isn't changed, aside from the fact that there's a whole bunch of other policy that's no good. And this was predictable not only because if you go to an economist and you say, hey, what happens if you do these tariffs? And they go, this is what happens. We have the experience and the data from Trump's first term in terms of the effect on farmers.
Melania's dark past is once again surfacing after a letter she sent to Vladimir Putin leaked to the public. At first, the public was told by the Trump regime that Melania wrote this very strong letter to Vladimir Putin demanding the return of the 20 to 40,000 Ukrainian children who were kidnapped by Russia during their invasion of Ukraine. Okay, well, that would be a strong letter despite Donald Trump humiliating the United States in Alaska and kneeling to Putin. If Melania really wrote a strong letter, that could be good. But now we have the letter. It doesn't even mention Ukraine. It doesn't mention Ukrainian children. It talks about, hey, Vladimir, do you want to hear the melodic laughter of the children? I mean, Vladimir Putin probably got this letter, started laughing, and then told state regime media, maybe you want to play some more photos of Melania nude, like Russian state regime media had been doing before. When Donald Trump was unfortunately elected, state regime media in Russia started showing nude after nude of Melania Trump from her past, and the hosts, Russia's version of like Sean Hannity and their propagandists, would just start pointing at nude Melania and just start laughing and saying how classless she is and things like that. So why don't we first just take a look at this letter that Melania sent, and then I want to talk about how her dark past is unraveling, including the look of terror in her face the last time she was face-to-face with Vladimir Putin, who knows not just how to play Donald Trump, but in my opinion, knows how to play Melania as well. One of the reasons that she did not, I think, show up to this Alaska trip, but frankly, she hasn't showed up to any of these trips as well. So the handwritten letter from Melania that Trump supposedly delivered to Putin, it leaked. It doesn't mention Ukraine. It doesn't mention Ukrainian children. despite initial reports that that's what it said. Let's take a look at the letter right here. Also, just look at her bizarre signature right here. That's her signature. It's not even a handwritten letter. It's a typed letter. And it says, "Dear President Putin, every child shares the same quiet dreams in their heart, whether born randomly into a nation's rustic countryside or a magnificent city center. They dream of love, possibility, and safety from danger. As parents, it is our duty to nurture the next generation's hope. As leaders, the responsibility to sustain our children extends beyond the comfort of a few. Undeniably, we must strive to paint a dignity-filled world for all, so that every soul may wake to peace, and so that the future itself is perfectly guarded. A simple yet profound concept, Mr. Putin, as I'm sure you agree, is that each generation descendants begin their lives with a purity and innocence which stands above."
Morning, guys. Happy Monday. Well, I'm back again. Looks like we're outraged again, peeps. Yeah, much to my surprise, we out here spazzing out again. Yeah. So this time, we are so outraged and all up in arms over a blue jean commercial. Yeah. We are spazzing out over a plain Jane, Simple Simon, blue jean commercial. Yeah. It's being reported that the black community is just going ham on the fact that some brand name, American Eagle, Bald Eagle, somebody Eagle brand of blue jeans, had hired this chick named Sydney Sweeney. And the commercial, it's just a humdrum commercial. I mean, I saw a clip and I was like, okay. But they did this commercial where it says, Sydney has great jeans. And evidently that threw us into such a tailspin that the conservatives, white conservatives, are coming together and I mean, they're just going, oh, the black people are just going all out. They're just so racist. Just because they said she has great genes, they're out here just up revolting and, you know, yada, yada, yada. Well, and supposedly because we reacted that way, it boosted the sales up they were just, you know, so grateful that we were, because our outrage was boosting their sales. Okay. Well, update. Sydney Sweeney, who's featured in this magazine, supposed to be what, most beautiful woman in the world or something. That's what they're trying to tag it as. Well, you know, she had a movie to come out because, you know, supposedly her community, they all gathered around and they all supported when the sales went through the roof, and she had all this backing. Well, the same young lady had a movie to come out over the weekend called Americana. It came out this weekend, all over the nation. And it grossed in revenue from this one weekend. It grossed $540,000. Yeah. It grossed 540,000. You heard me, 1,000 with a T. Over the entire weekend in every theater across the nation. Yeah, they supported her ass right to $540,000. Oh, and I ain't through. An Eagle, Bald Eagle, American Eagle, whatever the name brand it was for the clothing line, which, you know, they were saying the sales were going through the roof. Well, the numbers came out from one of their busiest seasons, which is back to school, right? Everybody knows how back to school goes, right? Well, it looks like their numbers came in, you know, from back to school sales right this time of the year. And it seems that their revenue is their revenue dropped a whopping 9%. So they dropped in sales. Despite them saying they were having record-breaking sales because, of our negative reaction, of our racist reaction, that they had record-breaking sales. We were actually boosting the sales. Okay, well, what are the numbers at? So why did they drop 9% at the most busiest time of the year for retail, which is back to school? See, this is the part where you have to think things through. First and foremost, black people didn't give a damn about no Sydney Sweeney in some baggy ass, tied ass looking jeans. We don't dress in that style. When we wear our blue jeans have a different look. And they even threw Beyonce into this. It was some white chick. It was spazzing out over this so-called outrage from us. And so she called herself getting in and just, going ham on beat. Calling her out. Calling her hair fake. And she walking around here with these wigs. Why don't she go old natural and yada, 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 right? Honey. Beyonce, Cowboy Carter tour, with her fake ass, as she put it. How come she just grossed record-breaking revenue, outperforming, out-generating any other country music star in history? Yeah. Beyonce's revenue from her Carter Cowboy tour had grossed a record-breaking amount of revenue from her tour. So let's get this right. Their girl, Sydney Sweeney, she couldn't even get folks to come to a movie theater to see her movie, debut her movie, but they are all up in arms over how supportive and how beautiful and everything, yada 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 yada. Then the people who were supposedly the people who created the jeans, the line, the clothing line, they were supposed to be making so much revenue. All of a sudden, it's been reported they dropped 9% in their sales. So what it seems like to me is the only way for white people to generate any attention or media presence is to lie and say black people are all up in arms and we're rage and we're hating and we're racist and we're just bitter people. Baby, didn't nobody give a damn about Sydney? Didn't nobody give a damn about them tied ass baggy, look like old school janitors uniforms? Didn't nobody give a damn about that? No, but look, y'all gonna stop that these folks blow y'all mind up, coming out telling us what the black people are thinking and what the black people are saying. People like Piers Morgan, a white dude from over the pond somewhere, just a white ring commentator who claims he's not. But he was having a field day with this. Just going on and on. Anything rather than talk about the Epstein files, right, guys? But I got a great idea on that. Hear me out. Since all these distractions, articles are coming out, taking over DC, going to see Putin, all this other stuff. Everything they're coming out now, they're just trying to draw distraction from the Epstein file. So I say this is what we can do to just let them see their effort is going nowhere. Let's talk about every topic that comes up, but let's add a hashtag to every new so-called distraction topic. Every time they want us to talk about something else. Oh, you want us to talk about Sydney Sweeney? Okay, talk about her and do hashtag Jeffrey Epstein files. Oh, y'all want to talk about liberating DC? How he's releasing He's releasing the National Guard in D.C. Talk about it, but at the end say hashtag release Jeffrey Epstein files. Because when you get through everything you want to try to throw at us, we still gonna follow up with what about them Jeffrey Epstein files. Okay. Oh, and I got one thing that I'm saying. I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna come back and make a video on this one too. But it is being reported that September the 3rd, some of Jeffrey Epstein victims will be going before Congress. And already Trump is already behind closed doors degrading them and demeaning them and calling them democratic opportunists. I'll get back with you guys on that later. But I got to get out of here. I just got one thing to say though. Before I get out of here, I just want to know, hey, Sydney, is Greg in yet?